Currently, I'm a co-director of Orca Lab, which is a land-based whale research station on Hanson Island in the area of Johnston Strait and Blackfish Sound, which is up in the Inside Passage in northern Vancouver Island. We believe it's possible to learn about whales, orcas in particular, without interfering with their lives or habitat. One of the things about orcas and other cetaceans, I have to say, is that they are large-brained, very large-brained and sentient animals. They're also social animals. They rely on their family groups and their social context for most of the things that they do in their lives. They're also acoustic animals in the sense that they rely on sound for really two basic purposes. One is to assess their environment, find their way around, find food, and so forth, but also for communication. And one of the great objections I have to the kind of concrete tanks that cetaceans are kept in captivity is that they totally deprive the whales and dolphins of the natural acoustic world. And I think this is a form, in a sense, of sensory deprivation. And we know very, very well from human studies and experiences that depriving a brain of normal sensory input is harmful. There are really three strikes against captivity. One is the deprivation of the social context. One is the deprivation of the acoustic context. And the other is the deprivation of the ability of these whales and dolphins to swim long distances, find their way around the ocean, feed naturally, and so forth. I think the kind of bottom line is that you deprive the whales and dolphins of virtually all of the things that make them what they are. The sound, the social context, the ability to roam free in the oceans, etc. You know, it's such a totally deprived existence. Many of the things I've said about the deprivation of the normal sensory environment apply to Vancouver as they do to other captive facilities like SeaWorld. Many of the whales and dolphins that are held in captivity live shortened lives. And I think that this is probably a manifestation of stress, the circumstances of captivity that they're subject to. If we're concerned, for example, about conservation and about our ability and our wish to protect whales and dolphins in the wild, what we learn about them in the wild is, I believe, far more important than what we can learn about them in captivity. I think, in fact, that when you take a young kid to see a whale or whales and dolphins in captivity, you're in many ways miseducating them and not educating them. I think you're teaching kids that it's okay to do this to these beautiful wild animals. And I do think that in many cases what you're showing these kids in captivity is not the real whale, but a shadow of the whale. You see the form, but not the substance. You know, you can't study humans in a jail cell. You're only looking most of the time at aberrant behavior. And in captivity, you see lots of aberrant behavior. I think breeding cetaceans in captivity is one of the most unfortunate things that's happening. And I do not see, despite the claims of some of the captive industry, that what they're doing ultimately is helping the wild situation by, for example, providing a refuge and by perhaps ultimately releasing animals into the wild that would help a wild population. I just do not see any logic to that argument at all. If the Vancouver Aquarium wants to keep these whales, I would absolutely advocate not breeding them at all, period. In sum, really, I think that if the aquarium makes a firm decision and commitment to end the display of captive whales and dolphins and the breeding of captive whales and dolphins, that this will be a very healthy move that will take it forward in really positive ways for the future. If the city and the park board make a decision and tell the Vancouver Aquarium that it can no longer continue this practice, the aquarium will, in a sense, have to change its ways. And I think that ultimately it will feel good about it too.